Mr. Reddit Man presents Sailors of Reddit. What is one thing about the open ocean that most people do not know about? Acres of jellyfish. It's creepy. I remember pulling into Thailand. You could practically walk on them. The ocean is a beautiful and thoroughly deadly place. While serving aboard a Navy frigate and weathering a storm a ways off the coast of Nova Scotia, I saw lightning hit the top of a rogue wave that was looming 50 feet over the bow at that moment. It was beautiful, and the instant I saw it, I knew that I would never see anything else like that, and I doubt that anyone ever captures a picture like what I saw. There were forks of lightning reaching down into that wave for dozens of feet. It was like looking at a brilliantly glowing mountain of emerald and jade. A brilliantly glowing mountain that was about to fall on you. The instant the lightning faded, the ship plowed into that wave. Bow on, and the wave broke over the third level of the superstructure. 3 stories up from the main deck. I was on that third level, and if not for a safety strap, would have been lost. At that time I had never seen such weather before. Over 100 feet of bow forward of the superstructure speared into that wave, and when it broke over the windbreak, I will tell you that had you been there, you would not scoff at that carrier sailor's reference to solid water in another post. In Navy speak, green water over the bow means that you have got a lot of water breaking over the ship. Not just a little foam and spray, but water of some noticeable depth. It was like colliding with a wall. The hull rang from the impact and the ship lost almost all forward momentum immediately. The ship began to groan and shudder along her whole length as she shouldered upwards and shed who can tell how many tons of water. There were many other waves that night, but I know which one left the inch-wide cracks in the superstructure amidships. I know that the ocean contains beautiful and otherworldly vistas not to be seen anywhere else on this earth. And I know that the ocean is utterly lethal. There are a lot more small uninhabited atolls and islands than a lot of people know. I sailed from North Florida to Mexico, about 7 days. And I mean sailed, not a ship, a sailboat. The dirty little secret of sailing. The rotten part ISN, not the storms. Those are kind of fun and challenging. The rotten part is when there is no wind at all, and you go nowhere, and you bob up and down endlessly, and the limp sails just bang back and forth randomly for 48 hours or so. You will lose your mind. Sailed from California to Hawaii, 19 days, and can confirm, we had 3 straight days with no wind at the end of our trip, although the wave crashing completely over the top of the boat was pretty bad too. I once sailed with an older gentleman who said he sailed from California to Hawaii by himself. Apparently, he had to wake up at least every hour to reorient the boat and make sure the course did not deviate and whatnot. I would lose my ducking mind. Whales can sneak up on you, and they're huge. This is my nightmare.
Wassist.
How big it is. Seriously, the ocean is huge. If you're not on one of the main shipping routes, then you can go weeks without seeing another ship. Especially if you're out in the middle of the Pacific somewhere. I really needed to experience for myself to really understand how big it is. One of my first trips was a 24-day voyage. You know before departure that you are going to be at sea for a long time. But only after 2 weeks at sea, and knowing that there is more than a week left before you see land again, does the size of the ocean really set in. I have been a lookout for several years now. If you have never been to sea, you simply cannot understand just how far you can see with the naked eye. One extraordinarily clear afternoon I saw a speck on the horizon, so I reported a possible small boat to the junior officer of the deck. I estimated the range to be about 11 miles or so. A moment later the guy in charge, and incidentally, a man who, until now, had shown me nothing but scorn, came out and scanned the horizon. Small boat. Alhanestim. Just how the duck did you spot that? It's right there, sir. Hard to miss. Alhanestim. There is nothing on that side except the San Antonio, and it's 26 goddamn miles away. You spotted the tip of its mast. Jesus. Holy shite. Sir. Has never been a dick to me since. I have seen swordfishes carving through leaping shoals of fish. Spinner sharks jumping and twisting. Miles and miles of Portuguese man-o'-war jellyfish. Dozens of sea turtles. Dozens of whales. A pod of dolphins about 1,000 strong. Schools of sharks and eagle rays together. Sunspots and all the visible planets and several of the brightest galaxies, nebulas, and clusters through the big binoculars. I tracked the Galilean moons of Jupiter for months. We were perfectly placed to catch an amazing lunar eclipse from the Med in mid-2011. At one time I had memorized about 20 constellations and a couple dozen stars. The scenes that stuck out most to me were bioluminescence though. One still dark night I observed some large creature leaving a brilliant, glowing, swooping, comet-like trail behind as it swam. We were doing only a few knots, so it stayed for some time. Eventually I realized it was probably a curious dolphin swimming alongside. Another still, dark night shortly after, we cruised through an area where some massive group of large deep sea creatures had come together at the surface. I never discovered what they were, but I strongly suspect they were some type of large squid. What so astonished me was that they were quite obviously communicating our presence to each other by flashing. Each flash briefly lit up an area perhaps a couple meters across. To the first flash, dozens more around it responded in kind. The ripple effect was like throwing a stone into a still pond. This went on the whole night. Trippy as hell. The motion. You do not understand. If you have never been sailing in a large ship and am talking one where you go below decks and do not see the horizon for days. Imagine yourself sitting right now at your computer and now start moving your head back and forth. Back and forth. Back and forth. It does not stop. It would not stop. You just keep going with the motion. Over and over again. Just as you complete one roll, another starts again. You know the feeling when you're driving in a car and it goes over a hill in just the right way to get the partial weightlessness feeling? Imagine that happening again and again and again and again. Up and down. Up and down. And you have got shite to do. Paperwork to fill out. Kit to fix. Retoops to pen. Food to eat. But that ocean's still moving. Back and forth. Up and down. Over and over. Again and again. And it continues for a day or so when you are on solid ground as well. Showering when greenside after a long voyage is the worst. All you feel is a rocking that does not exist. If you put a warm beer into a sock, attach it to some fishing line, and lower it a few feet down and drag it for a little while, you'll have a cold beer in no time flat.
Or you'll catch an Irishman.
No matter what we do, nature will always be more powerful than you. I was on my destroyer in the Yellow Sea skirting the edge of a typhoon, and the wind buffeting the ship, the waves smashing into the hull. That was the most convinced I have ever been that my ship was going to be destroyed. We pulled into port a week later to discover that there were significant cracks in the forward part of the keel from the ship getting crushed by waves. Terrifying. Oh, and you have to stand watch during that while seasick, exhausted, and on the lookout for a North Korean sub that just sank a South Korean warship. Easily the lowest point in my life. I lived on a 40-foot sailboat as a child, so I grew up on the ocean. My family and I left the US when I was really little and ended up and down the coast of Mexico for about 2.5 years before crossing into the Pacific. I remember during 30-day crossing from Mazatlan to Nukuhiva we went through a swarm of jellies. They started coming up the drains in the bathrooms. They smelled awful. We ended up washing them back down with fresh water. A few other things that people do not really know about open ocean sailing is that you have limited electricity. You can run your engine from time to charge up your battery, or you can install a wind generator. My family had a wind generator. The thing was noisy as hell, but it did its job. Another thing to remember is that your things will be constantly wet. It could be from a small leak somewhere, or from a particularly rough day/night at sea. You and your belongings will be either soaking or slightly damp. You will never get rid of the sea/boat smell, even if you have moved all of your belongings on land for almost 10 years. Rogue waves do happen. Our boat has been hit by them before. Not very big ones thankfully, but powerful ones where they have slammed against the hull and busted open portholes. You are alone. Very much alone. We have had friends that have died while open ocean sailing. They have fallen over the side at night and drowned. Serious injuries could potentially lead to your death if you do not have someone with you. If you are not careful and take proper safety precautions, life jackets and harnesses/tethers, you could end up dead. Canned food and dried food lasts. Fresh food/perishable items do not last long when you have no refrigerator. Sure, you can get those things while you are in port, but things like fresh meat would not last long. Powdered milk. Disgusting, but if you want milk, you mix some of that and water. To this day I will not touch powdered milk. Fresh water is hard to come by when you are out at sea, so you have it stored in containers on deck. When in port though, you can tie up at a dock for a bit and fill up, or you can catch rainwater. My mom sewed a huge piece of canvas into a water catcher. Now going along those lines, we would fresh water for our showers. We would hop in the ocean, scrub up and rinse, then rinse after we got out with fresh water. It took less fresh water. We would also take our clothing on land, mostly where is tied up, and wash our clothing by hand using powdered soap, a washboard and hose water. You live in your bathing suit for the most part, so we did not have to do laundry often. The open ocean is for the most part, a desert. But just like the Sahara, it may appear lifeless, but in reality it's teeming with critters. You can spend days, weeks, and months not seeing anything but water, a smattering of birds, a few fish breaking the surface. Every once in a while, you get one of those magic moments where the entire area around you just explodes with life. Timing is everything. When you watch one of those nature documentaries, whether it's on terrestrial or aquatic wildlife, those photographers spend months filming, all to get a few good moments of action. The sky and the clouds are totally different than overland. Also, waves generally will come in patterns averaging 7 peaks to a set, where the 7th is the highest and carries the most momentum. Here's another thing people do not think about: being out to sea is pretty much the closest thing we have to being in outer space. There's nothing separating you from your doom, save for a cold metal hull. You're totally on your own, and only subject to the rules of the sea. There's nothing creepier than to see your map tell you you're floating on top of 5 miles of nothing but dark. Deep down below, a part of your consciousness goes to that great depth, and you shudder at the horror of the unknowable. Due to the lack of light pollution, it is quite possible to see a moonlit rainbow of pure pastels that'll take your breath away. I was going to say something similar. I was in the USN for 4 years as well, and I will never forget the stars. At sunset, Navy ships do a darkened ship where all lights are hidden or covered except the port, starboard, stern and mast light. These lights are directional and only shine in certain angles around the ship, so another ship can see the light configuration and tell what direction the ship is going. On a new moon, after darkened ship, in the middle of the ocean, you cannot see your hand 1 inch in front of your face. It's during this darkness that you look up and see the stars. In all actuality, it is truly indescribable. You lose all sense of scale and have to make a conscious effort to feel the deck below, or you feel as if you'll float away. Think of the stars you have seen in the sky and multiply that by 1,000,000. If you are reading this, you watched until the end of the video. Smash that like button if you have enjoyed it. Bam. On screen there should be some more videos similar to this, so either go do something else or watch more videos. That's about it. There is no more here. What are you waiting for, a secret message or something? This is not a secret, but subscribe for more videos like this.